Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to the CA Lisa Application Delivery Global User Community Webcast. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question-and-answer session. If you would like to ask a question during that time, simply press star 1 on your telephone keypad. To withdraw your question, press the pound key. Thank you, Ms. Fundanis. You may begin your conference.
Great. Thank you very much, Vernell, and welcome, everyone. Welcome to the CA Lisa Application Delivery Global User Community Webcast. This is our first webcast, and we're very excited about it. My name is Melissa Fundanis, and I work in the CA Education Organization. And our topic for today is going to be ensuring successful user adoption with CA Lisa. If you have any questions during the presentation, you have two options. You can hold your question for the end of the presentation when we'll open up the lines, or you'll notice there's a Q&A section in the webcast itself. Feel free to send me a question, and periodically, as I'm going through the presentation, I will try to answer those questions as well. All right, so why don't we go ahead and get started with our presentation. I want to start first by talking a little bit about user adoption and about Lisa. In a lot of cases, what we see with the Lisa product is a three-phase rollout. And in the first and second phase, we're usually rolling it out. When I say we, I mean CA Services. When CA Services is rolling it out with a customer, it's usually to a small group of users. And then once they get to the third phase, it becomes an enterprise rollout. And so that's when user adoption typically becomes more of a concern, because we want to make sure that those users are using the system successfully. So that's usually the time that we're concerned not only about training and supporting a couple of folks here and there, but we're thinking about training and supporting tens or hundreds of users, and we want to have a way to be able to do that successfully. So let me start by talking a little bit about what we have found are the three keys to a successful product adoption strategy. The first key is starting early. So you want to start thinking about how you're going to train your users and support them when you have that large community before you start implementing. In fact, NeoChange did a survey just last year, and they found that organizations who start their end-user adoption efforts in the discovery phase, so early in the process, achieve 3 times greater returns on their end-user investments compared to organizations who don't start thinking about user adoption until they're actually implementing. So starting early and preparing for it is very important. The second key is you want to plan for that cultural change. So when you're rolling out to a large number of users, you want to make sure that you're thinking through all the different activities that need to go into that change management plan. So you want to think about executive and stakeholder alignment, user preparation and engagement, communication plans, content development and training, and then ongoing performance support. And where our solution that we're going to talk about today fits in is in the content development and training piece. You want to be able to have content that you can use to train your users before you go live and support them after you go live. And of course, that's the third key to a successful product adoption strategy. It's not just having tools for readiness, meaning training for when you go live, but you also want to have tools for when your users have questions and they're in the live application. So you want to be able to do both. So from a readiness perspective, you want to have communication materials. You may need to train your users either with live sessions and or web-based training. So you want to have the right materials for your rollout and for your culture. And then you also want to have support materials. So the best way to do that is to have some kind of application help that's easy to get to when the user's stuck in the application. A lot of times what happens is users get stuck and they don't know what to do and they do something wrong because they don't want to go back to that web-based training or that instructor-led training guide that they had in the classroom. They just want to keep going, so they kind of make it up as they go along. So we want to make sure that we give them a real easy and simple way to get the help that they need when they're in the application and after they've taken the training. Statistics tell us that when we go through training, if we don't use what we've learned, we'll lose up to 70% of that knowledge. And that makes sense because if you don't use it, typically you lose it. So we want to make sure we not only train our users before we go live, but we have adequate support materials for them after we go live. In fact, that same firm that I mentioned earlier, NeoChange, in their survey also shared some information about how our users are on information overload. What they shared was that over the last 14 years, IT spending has been on the rise. But the trend that they're seeing in the marketplace is that user productivity is on a decline, up to 17% in decline. And the reason for that is what you see up at the top of the screen where it says industry trend. The unprecedented level of technology deployment has exceeded the absorption capacity of end users. And what that simply means is we're rolling out new software so quickly, we're upgrading existing software, enhancing existing software so quickly that our users can't keep up with it anymore. If you think about it in your own world today, over a month's period of time, if you think about all the different systems you access, and how many times we go through changes in those and then we roll out new systems that we all have to work in every day, and you have to get up to speed on what those changes are, it's overwhelming. So what happens a lot of times is the users don't get trained, they don't use the system properly, or they don't use it at all. So that's another reason why training our users before we go live and supporting them after we go live is so important, because they're inundated with so many different systems and they change so often, they're having trouble keeping up. The ones they're going to use the most are the ones they're comfortable with, and the ones they're comfortable with are the ones they're being trained on properly. So that's where our solution comes in. It's called the CA Productivity Accelerator, or what we call Kappa for short. Kappa is a content development platform, and it can be utilized to create materials, modify them, and publish them as documentation, as training materials, and as performance support materials. So you have one single source of truth for all your materials, one place to capture your system processes, so what are all the steps I take in the system, your business processes, what are the steps I take outside of the system that's part of that process, and any subject matter expert knowledge you have that you want to capture in your training and your support materials. Capture all that in one place. It can help shorten your content development time and cost because you're going to one place to create your materials and then only one place to update them in the future. It can help you ensure rapid, successful user adoption because you're using the same materials to train your users and support them after you go live. And when you're supporting them after you go live, well, it alleviates help desk call volumes and costs. And all of this makes it very maintainable, not only for the initial implementation, but every time you go through enhancements and upgrades, because you need to retrain your users on those changes, and this makes it easy to go to one place to make those updates and then republish all that content. So what does that content look like for an end user? On the slide that you're looking at now, it represents all the different ways that you can publish out content once you create it in Kappa. And so I'm going to focus on the training and the support outputs. I'll mention the other ones just so you know the full breadth of how you can use Kappa. So let's say we create all our content for using CA Lisa in your environment with all your business processes, and now we want to publish that content out. If you look at the bottom right-hand corner of this slide where the Kappa, the little guy is with the Kappa sign, that's the content developer. If we publish content, we can publish content to put in our communication material to communicate to the users we're rolling out this new system to get them excited about it. You can also publish out user acceptance test scripts in Kappa if you'd like. And then we get to the training outputs. We can publish instructor and user manuals, and those are in Word, PowerPoint presentation materials. We find some companies like Word as part of their culture, they use Word. Some companies use PowerPoint, so either one or both can be published. You can also publish the content as web-based training. So where you see the little icon that talks about LMS, websites, simulations, and practice simulations, you can publish out web-based training that can be deployed to your learning management system, and that's where your users go to take training today at your organization. You log in, you take your training, and then you can show completion rates and assessment scores there by running reports. Or you can simply make the web-based training available via a website, have them go to the website and take the training. The training they can take can be simulations, practice simulations, and assessments if you want to test their knowledge before you give them access to the Lisa application. Once we've trained the users, whether that's instructor-led training, web-based training, a combination of the two, then we also want to support them after we go live. So that's where the application help comes in. And that's going to be a little cue card that can sit on top of the Lisa application and walk a user through an activity step by step. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a few minutes. You can also publish this content out as system process documentation if that's an important requirement to your implementation, and job aids, those one-page cheat sheets that some users like to have in their hand when they do activities. So all of those different outputs can be published from that one content development session that you create in Kappa. And so what's important to keep in mind is that if you create any of that content separately, all of that takes time, and then you have to maintenance that content, and that takes time as well. So if you're using one content development solution to do that, what this slide represents is if we were to create a 15-step process in Lisa, if we did it the old-fashioned way, so we created it using a tool like Captivate to create online simulations and practice simulations, if we wanted to create any training materials or job aids or assessments or even in-application help, it would take us, if you take a look at the column that says time estimate without Kappa, that's how long it typically takes to create any and all of those documents for a 15-step process. In Kappa, you're creating it once, you may modify it a little bit for an assessment, and then you have that content for all of those outputs. So it really helps eliminate the amount of time it takes to create that content. So with that, what I'd like to do is share my desktop with you and give you a demonstration of what Kappa can do. And what I'd like to do is start by showing you what all those outputs look like. So let's take a day in the life of an employee and say we built that content and we now want the users to go in and consume that content as training and then support. And so if we wanted our users to go into our LMS or our learning management system to take some web-based training, or maybe just have them go out to a URL that we've designated to take training, this is what the web-based training would look like. You have all your content here on the left-hand side, and in fact, We do have some base out-of-the-box content, and that's what you're looking at right now. This is all out-of-the-box LISA content. This content is great for you to start determining your scoping efforts for creating content and also having some base content to start with. And if you need to, you can re-record any of these to pick up any business processes that you have surrounding the LISA activities in the system and anything else that you want to add to this content before you roll it out to your users. And in a few minutes, I'm going to show you how you actually create and modify content. So you can always start with this base content that we have, and as a user, you can see that they can go in and choose their role, and the content would filter based on their role. So they'd only see the content they need for their role. And so they go into a particular activity, and here's the different modes that I talked about that they can use. The See It is a simulation, the Try It is a practice simulation, the Know It is an assessment, the Do It is actually the application support, and the Print It is a job aid. So as a user, they could go into the See It mode and watch the simulation, so see how I need to do this activity in LISA. And so this would just walk them through step by step how they need to do this. Now we know that we have some folks who learn by seeing, and we have some folks that learn by actually trying it themselves. So if you have users who learn best different ways, that's one of the beauties of Kappa. You can make all of these available and they can learn in whatever style works best for them. So instead of the See It simulation, maybe they want to go into the Try It practice simulation because they like to try it. That's how they learn best. So they would click on Start, click on Windows, sorry about that, and they would go through this activity as many times as they want until they feel comfortable with it. So your users can learn either way. And also, if they want to print out the job aid, here's the one-page cheat sheet that they can print out that would show them all the steps. I've had some customers tell me, I'd like to print out the job aid and then go through the simulation and take any notes that I want to take on my job aid. When they're ready to be tested, you can have them go into the Know It mode. You can set a scoring threshold here. We usually see customers set this at about 80 or 85%. And then as the user goes in and they work through the activity, there's going to be a lot of places where it won't give them any hints on what to do. And so they can click on Show Step, and it'll say, if you choose to see this step, it will be graded as incorrect. Do you want to see this step? If they say no, they can guess. If they guess wrong, it'll tell them the action you've performed is incorrect. Please try again. The second time, it will tell them what to do. The third time, it'll actually highlight that field. And the last time, it'll finally say, you know what, why don't you just click on OK, and I'll show you what to do. And then it'll mark them one wrong for that. At the end, they can see their score. They can print out their score. If you load this into your LMS, you can run reports on completion rates and assessment scores. So those are different ways that the users can consume the material as web-based training. I'm going to come back and show you the Do It mode a little bit later when we talk about users needing support. But for now, what I'm going to do is bring up the training guide so you can see if you want to publish this content out as a training guide for web-based, or I'm sorry, for a live instructor-led training or over the web live training, you can give your users a guide to follow along with. And when you publish this out of Kappa, it has a title page, it has a table of contents, and if we go to a particular activity, it's going to show you an overview for that activity, the page, and then what's called a step action table. And the step action table tells you all the steps you need to take for this particular page. And you'll see that format all the way through this guide. These guides are customizable, so if you want to put in your logo, change the look and feel, you can do all of that as well. Now, if you prefer to have this content in PowerPoint, you can also publish it out in PowerPoint format. Oops, I'm sorry about that. I lost the connection, so let me bring that back up. So we have that same content available as a PowerPoint presentation. And so you'd have a page shot and the steps. And again, these slides are customizable. So in Kappa, in the template format, you can go in and make any changes to the template and then publish it out, and it will have your look and feel. So we can train the users using instructor-led training over the web or in the classroom, web-based training, maybe a combination of two. And in fact, many times what we suggest is if you do any live training, also publish that content as web-based training. So as new users come on board, many times we don't have the opportunity to continue offering live training for one or two new users. If you publish it all out as web-based training, all new users can consume all that material as web-based training that you taught in the classroom. So let's say we've trained our users, and now we want them to go into the LISA application and actually do something. So let's say we want them to go in and create a new project in LISA, and we're not quite sure how to do that. So what the user can do is open up Kappa and click on the Do It mode, and that's that little cue card that I told you can sit on top of the application. So now we've got this little cue card on top of the application, and it can walk through the user, have the user walk through the, I'm getting to the place where I want to be actually in here. Did I have, oh, you know what, that's the wrong one. Let me open up another one I had here. Oh, let's see, where did I put it? Right here. Oh, I didn't publish the one I needed. Okay, so let's go back and open up create a project. I was using the wrong one. So let me try this again. Okay, so we can open up the cue card, and it can sit on top of the application and walk the user through this activity step by step. So here what you'll see is the information that they need on the top box, and then a page shot of the same page that they'd be in the production environment. And you can see we can just walk through this activity step by step. So any way I want to go ahead and create this, you'll notice it's telling me now I need to put in a project name. So we'll call this LISA project. And then I click on the arrow key, and it tells me the next step I need to go to. And that would say that it's telling me I have to create, click on create. So I click on create, and then it takes me to the next step. So as you can see, it walks me through that activity step by step. And so this is really nice for a number of reasons. The users don't have to go back to web-based training to get an answer. They don't have to go back to an instructor-led training guide. They can bring up Kappa. They can bring up the activity they need, and they can put it right on top of the application and walk through that activity. So it makes it easy for them to get the answers right there while they're in the application. When they're done, they just close it down and continue working in the application itself. And anytime they need help, they just go back to Kappa, bring up the topic that they need, and put it right on top of the application. So it's kind of like a GPS system. Anywhere you are in LISA, you just go ahead and bring up Kappa, and it can help you out. So those are the different outputs that you can create. What I'd like to do now is switch gears and show you how you actually develop that content. So for instance, we are now in the content developer, and here's where we can actually develop our content. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of base content that you can start with. But let's say we're going to create some of our own content. On the left here, I have all this base content. If I want to create a new activity, all I need to do is create a topic, name it, let's say creating a new LISA project. and then I click on this camera icon that opens up my recording technology. I open up Lisa, and let's say we're going to create a new project here. So the first thing I want to do is capture this screen that I have. So all I'm going to do is hit my print screen button to record that. And you'll notice in the recorder it says last recorded event is the start screen. So I know I captured that correctly. So each step I take, I'm just going to capture. So I'll click on File and capture that. I'll click on New and capture that. I'll click on Project, capture that. I'll give it a project name, A Lisa Project, capture that. And I'll click on Create and capture that. Now, what I've done here is what's called manual recording. Every step I took, I manually recorded. Kappa also allows you to automatically record. So if you wanted to, you could just turn it on auto, and it would automatically record every single step. And there's pros and cons to that. If you happen to need to go somewhere else, it's going to capture every step that you take. So whichever way is easiest for you, you can capture that content. Once you're done capturing that activity, you click on Finish. And now we can see what we created. We're back in the Content Developer, and we can see what we've created, and we can modify this before we publish it for our users to actually take the training and use the support materials. So here you'll notice it captured my overview page, it put in the bubble, and it put in my title. The first step I took was to click on the File menu. Then I clicked on the New button, or menu. Then on the project, and you'll notice it's captured and put in the bubble and the text for each step for me. Then I put in my project name, and then I clicked Create. So it has all my steps for me. All I need to do is go back and make any updates or add any content that I want. So maybe I want to make this content instructionally sound. So I can open up some tools here where I can type some information into my bubble. So maybe I want to say in this activity, you will learn, and then I have my introduction in here. Maybe I want to go in at a certain point. Maybe there's a couple of ways they can access this content. One is through the File menu. Another is just opening up something that they see on the screen. So if I want, I could insert a decision frame or an alternative action or path to allow users different ways to do different activities. I could also insert an explanation frame if I want to tell them something without having them do anything. I could insert a missing frame if I forgot a step, and alternatively, I could delete actions, paths, or frames. So once I create content, I don't have to go back and re-record it from scratch if I need to make some kind of change. I could also insert any business process documentation that I need. So maybe when we get to the project name, we have naming conventions. So maybe I want to say for naming conventions, please see the document on the SharePoint site. So anywhere that you have business processes that you want to link into your system training, you can do that here. You can either have them as attached documents in the Kappa content, or you can actually link out to them if they were on a site. And then once you create this, you'll notice here that it shows up as a link. So when I publish this, the users can go to that link. So now I have system training and all my business process documentation available in here as well. So they have one-stop shopping. They're going one place for their training. So let's save this activity and publish it out. I'm going to go up to File and Publish, and I'll publish this to a miscellaneous directory. I'm going to publish just this activity I'll publish it a couple of ways so you can see. Here's where I'm telling it how I want to publish. I'm going to publish it as the web-based training, which we call the player, a training guide, and a PowerPoint presentation. So here's the beauty of creating it once and then publishing that content for training materials and support materials all in one place. And if I wanted to publish out documentation, I could, job aids I could, test documents I could, whatever I want. So it's creating everything for me. All those modes we saw, the see it simulation, the try it practice simulation, the assessment, it's creating the job aid, it's creating the application help for us, it's creating the interface to the web-based training, the search capability. If I had associated roles to this content, it's determining what roles have access to what content for me. So let's take a look at what we created here. Here is the web-based training. So here we have our Create a New Lisa project, and we have our See It, our Try It, our Know It, our Do It, and our Print It modes all done. So if we want to go into one of those, here's the Try It mode. Here's our main page. We click on Start, and here's what the steps that we took. Click on File, New, Project, put in our name, and click Create. So we've just created our training, and it's consumable. Our users can use this training now. There's the assessment, there's the job aid, so the job aid's created for us, and that application help. So here's the application help that sits on top of the Lisa application and walks them through this activity step by step. All in one content development effort. But wait, there's more. We also published out the training guide. So if you also wanted to make a training guide available, here's our title page. Here's our table of contents. Automatically creates all this for us. Here's our little introduction. In this activity, you will learn ... Here's our first page, and then it gives us all the steps we need to take on every single page. So we'll see a page shot and a step action table for each page. And then, of course, I published it out as the presentation mode as well. So if you prefer to use the PowerPoint presentation, we have it in that format as well. So however you want to train your users, a lot of companies will use a blended approach where some of it is web-based training, some of it is live training, and you have all the materials you need for both. So that is a look at how you create content and how you can publish it out. It's also a look at the different all the content that we have that's available that you can use out of the box, or you can take our content and modify it any way that you'd like and then publish that. So with that, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint presentation and talk about just a few other things. And let's see. I've got a question here. I've got a couple of questions, so let's see what we've got. Will Kappa provide updated content to existing Kappa users as CA Lisa Kappa? CA Lisa has new versions released. The answer is yes. Free of charge? The answer is if you're paying maintenance, then yes, it is part of maintenance. Second question, is Kappa Windows only? Kappa, the content development is Windows, but from a consumption perspective, your users can consume that on any type of browser that you'd like. Do you buy Kappa once for all Kappa, all CA products owned by an organization or enterprise, or one per product? Okay, so from a licensing perspective, users are licensed once and developers are licensed once. So what that means is if you have somebody who's developing content for a number of CA products, then you only need one developer's license, and that person can develop all the content that you want for all your CA products. From a user perspective, one Kappa license, and whether they're using it for CA Clarity, CA Lisa, CA Mainframe, they only need one license for that. Another question, does Lisa need to be installed on the user's workstation or only on the content developers in order to go through the activities? It only, the Lisa and Kappa, so let me answer this a couple ways. Does Lisa need to be installed on the user's workstation? No, Lisa does not need to be installed on the user's workstation. They need to, as a content developer, they need access through a URL to Lisa to build the content, but it doesn't have to exist on their workstation. Does Kappa need to be on your workstation? As a content developer, yes, Kappa needs to be on your workstation for you to develop content, but not for a user to consume any materials. There's nothing that a user needs on their laptop to consume materials from Kappa. All great questions, thank you, and feel free to submit some more. All right, so let's move on. I've got just a few more slides for you. So just to recap the benefits of Kappa, there's a number of them. First, it allows you to create both readiness training and production support tools in one effort, rapidly and easily, and your content can be role-based. It helps reduce the time to produce your content because you're not duplicating your efforts by building all kinds of different content. It can help reduce the risk of mistakes due to outdated materials because you're only developing and maintaining content in one place. So it's easy to go to one place to update it and then publish it any way that you need it. It can help reduce training and travel costs through online training tools, so you can train your users online versus in the classroom. And it can eliminate the need for multiple development tools. We have some customers that use multiple tools to develop content, and this way you only have to use one tool. I wanted to share a customer success story with you. We have had a number of customers, this is one in particular, who was rolling out Kappa for another CA product called Clarity. And they were actually doing an upgrade, and they wanted to standardize their training solution, and they were upgrading two CA products, Service Desk Manager and Clarity at the same time. They were using Kappa for both products. The reason they wanted to buy Kappa for Clarity was they loved the concept of one development effort yields multiple outputs. It was easy for them to create content for the initial upgrade and then maintain it for future enhancements. And they could have their Clarity SMEs build the content and then turn that over to their learning organization for them to make it instructionally sound. And the results were that they were able to create content, they told us, in hours versus days or weeks. They used one tool versus the 4 tools that they had been using. They had a faster time to launch, more effective communication and training materials, and they found help desk relief. The launch allowed them to reduce their help desk call volume to almost 0 for upgrades because the materials were available online before they went live, and then they had the support of Kappa after that it went live. So it was a real great success story for them and for us. Oops, I'm using the wrong key. Okay, there we go. So getting started with Kappa, I mentioned how you have the editor and then we have content, and I also talked a little bit about the content and how you can use it to determine your scoping, and you can re-record our content to reflect your configuration and your business processes, and you can translate this content into 23 different languages using Kappa. We can help you build content if that's something you're interested in. We have a quick start package which includes the Kappa class, a strategy and design workshop so we can talk to you about how Kappa can fit into your user adoption strategy. And then you can have one of our consultants spend 5 days with you coaching you through content development. We also find that some customers want us to build their content and then they take it over from there. So whatever works best for you. We have many, many customers who buy Kappa and build their own content. Some customers who say, come give us a jump start. Some customers that say, help us while we're doing it through the whole project. And some customers that say, build it for us and then we'll take it over from there. So whatever works best for your organization, we can support your needs. So that is a look at the Kappa developer, the content we have available, and how you can publish all that content for your training needs and your support needs. So what I'd like to do at this point is ask for now if we can open up the lines and see if there are any additional questions that we can answer for you.
At this time, if you'd like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, to ask a question, press star 1. And there are no audio questions at this time.
Okay, great. Well, we had our 4 questions online that we answered, so thank you for all those questions. And we hope this has been a very valuable experience for you. If you're interested in learning more about the CA Productivity Accelerator, which we call Kappa for short, feel free to talk to either your CA account manager, your solution strategist, or your education sales manager. Any one of the 3 can get you more information and answer any additional questions that you have. So for now, I think we're ready to close the call.
Thank you. This concludes today's CA LISA Application Delivery Global User Community Webcast. You may now disconnect.